when you're skipping, you should remain light on the feet, and also there's a sense of groundedness, the buoyancy of the upper body. So you remain locked into the ground heavily, but also with the lightness. So you keep light on the feet, on the toes. This is the aim, to develop speed, footwork. And that ease of stepping. Keep it simple. It can become a fitness exercise, of course. That's not the primary goal. It's to develop footwork so that there's always an ability to lift one foot, ground the other. It's a good training exercise for that. So remain loose, interconnected throughout the system. The legs ground you in, the body and spine lifts you up, so there's a pulling up and a sinking down. This creates maximum fluidity of the energy flows, as well as stability and flexibility and mobility. So it's a good exercise for developing speed and ease of movement. You just remain aware of that ease, so that any moment you can slow down. It's a very intuitive exercise once you get used to it. At first you might start off stiff. That doesn't matter. Eventually you become more fluid, and then it carries over to footwork more generally, so that you can move around easily with power and grace. Try to keep the knees tight and the toes tight in. You can feel a work in the hara center, the abdomen, as you drop down and pull up at the same time. You've got a buoyancy and a sinking. There's a slight lift of the pelvis, so that this engages the spine and legs. So there's a pulling up of the legs, as well as a sinking down of the spine. There's this idea of being rooted, but also lifted. So there's always this duality, which forms a unity. The pelvis tilts slightly forwards. This engages the whole spine. And there's also a sinking down, a rootedness. And there's a lift from the upper thoracic region throughout the spine. This keeps everything stretched, but also locked and also tied to the earth. So there's a rooting and a lifting. Just think of this idea of being rooted like a tree. The energy also travels upwards. There's nowhere for it to go except burst out and flower. So the arms are loose, the body's rooted, the neck is engaged, stretched. So even if there's not an absolute uprightedness, there's still a stretching of the spine, even if there's a slight stooping of the posture. And that's important for movement more generally, because when you're in the posture ready to hit, it's not the question of remaining upright all the time and straight. Instead, there's a slight drop, there's an extension of the abdomen so that maximum energy can be drawn there, but also lifting of the pelvis so that can be drawn upwards rather than just sinking. And so there's always this pull up and down, which creates a balance in the middle so that it all levels out. I like to think of it as the spine being locked in at the bottom, at the base of the spine, and then the rest of it lifting, so that every time you stretch that spine, it's locked in to the root level, which is around the hara center. The solar plexus can lift and express freely. So there's this idea of the masculine energy expressing more widely. There's always these two factors. If I take this as an example, the energy centers are all engaged, ideally. Often it's just these two, the hara center and the solar plexus. This one, the hara center, is locked. The others can, the solar plexus can travel around this locked chakra, this locked energy center, freely, because it's tied. At any point in the rope, in the string, when energy is highly concentrated there and held, then this creates a binding, a locking, which draws energy in, and if these centers are interconnected, the head, the chest, thoracic region, solar plexus, and the abdomen, then so long as there's a tightness, a lifting, as well as a contraction, so long as that spine is stretched, the energy can travel freely throughout the system. So let's use the example of the sword. When practicing with the sword, it's the same as anything else. At the base of the sword, the handle, this has to be locked. There's a stability around which the sword can extend. So you can't stretch the sword out with any precision if there's no contraction. So using the sword, grip with the right, the left one can support, and the right side of the body is the fire side, which concentrates the energy through the sword. Again, like with the body, you have the base of the spine, the base of the structure, and it gradually, finally extends out up through the sword itself, which is like a spine. The right side concentrates the energy, the left side disperses. So there's concentration and dispersion. There are many ways, obviously, to use the sword. Play around as you like. Apply different styles. One-handed, two-handed, horizontal, vertical. Lots of different systems, particularly in the Chinese traditions. They heavily use the sword, stabbing and everything. What more to say about it? Now again, just as the abdomen can concentrate the energy in this area just below the navel, you can also spread it out because there's a band of muscles here, and the intestines and the internal organs heat this area when they're active, such as in digestion and abdominal movements. And if this is engaged and extended or distended, pushed out slightly, this spreads the energy across, just like the hilt of the sword spreads across here from this concentrated area. It's then able to extend the force through and upwards with good effect. So when using the footwork, it's the same principle as with skipping. There's a lightness of step, an easefulness, concentration, often in the right side. This allows the left side to freely move. Equally, if this left side is freely moving, this right side can concentrate to assist. So it's not a question of one doing one thing. These two tendencies, left expressive, right concentrated, right fire, assertive, stable, the left is expressive, feminine. These two work together through the middle of the spine. So these energy centers converge through the spine, and these two different tendencies, fire and water, interact in the middle like heating a pan, so that the fire heats the pot, the water's heated, evaporates, becomes finer, and takes on a different quality, rises, heat rises, and turns into a kind of a subtler form of energy, which is represented by the brain and thoughts. So you have these different elements interacting as you travel up. But for now, we can think of it as the right side is quite stable, strong, fire. The left side is expressive, dispersion, horizontal, vertical. There are many different ways of representing it. Now the right brain controls the left side, so there's a crisscross, and the left brain controls the right side. So these two brain centers crisscross throughout the system, so that everything interacts from top to bottom. Now when there's movement of the legs, there's a lifting of the pelvis I mentioned earlier. This makes sure the legs are almost plugged in to the sockets, And when the pelvis is engaged and the base of the spine is tilted forward, this pulls everything in, so there's a contraction, there's a pulling up of this energy, and a contraction at the base of the spine, the sacral region. This then allows it to travel up the spine if everything is in fluid working order. So there's this sense of the earth element, the legs, being pulled up into the sockets. You can feel that. So what type of rhythms do we use? We just follow the breath, not the air. We just follow the energy as it travels, as it concentrates here, expands out as you breathe in, as you breathe out. Everything is lifted, pushed against the spine, and lifted up here. When you breathe in, there's a deepening, grounding, pushing a distension of the abdomen. And when you breathe out, there's a lifting and a pulling in of the abdomen. You can feel that. There are various ways of looking at this. So as you increase the intensity, the breath increases. We focus on breathing out mainly. And when you focus on the breathing out, this makes sure maximum concentration is occurring at this point of stability, this anchor point, this center of the earth. So when there's a breathing out, there's a focus on this abdomen area, so that this is always stable. You can focus on the breathing in, but it's not particularly helpful for martial arts practice. So by concentrating on this exhalation, this ensures a contraction here. So you're tight, you're anchored in, there's a gripping here. You can practice moving around. Anyway, using boxing. So you try to remain fluid. This is all tight, locked. There's a sense of ease and relaxation. And once this is engaged, you can move without injuring the spine, because it's stretched, and also this surrounding muscular region. It's holding everything. This is the most powerful area. So these movements I'm doing are the jab. We can look at that first of all. To do the jab, you take the stance, you extend out. The left is perfect for extending, reaching movements of that nature. It's an intuitive side. This is the hard fire side. So the left is always searching, seeking, expressing. It's fluid. The right hand is the finisher, the dominant side. It's used more for strength, because this left side already is better at circulating the energies of the body. So to use it as a dominant factor in fighting, a strength side, is going to take away from that, detract from that ability to actually support the life system and the circulation of energy and everything else. That's why this side is better for anything with a hard, fire nature. We've already looked at how to do all the different moves, so we won't look at that so much. We'll look at moving around more generally, tying things together. So the left eye is much better at picking up the peripheral view. So if the opponent's here, this left side is better at picking up everything around, so I can sense things coming in from this way or that way. The right side is more for aiming and shooting. And again, there's a crossover, so there's a sense of scanning the area here, and when I've targeted something, you can cross over and hit. Likewise, if you want to focus in, it's more dominant on the right side. I've noticed many times myself, if I want to turn around and see what's behind me, looking from the left, it's much easier because it gives me a wider field of view. The right side is more concentrated, but not as sparse and far-reaching. So these are some things to think about in the training sessions. We've looked at the jab, the right, the uppercut, the hook. The left hook comes across a lot more. Right hook is almost like a drive rather than a sweep, because of these two tendencies. So the typical training session might involve sword, might involve skipping, it might involve footwork, and it will involve some level of mixing everything together and tying it together. So it's like setting the table. We set the table according to a logical method. The knife goes here, the fork goes there. We all sit down. So this is what the training is. You're setting the table. And then, when you're actually eating, you just go into a natural state. So having warmed up, having done the exercises, we then begin the meal, so to speak, by just doing some free-flowing exercises, tying everything together, thinking about all those things. So, in high energy states, the energy is generated here, it's flowing up here as well, so there's a link between the two. Because the eyes see visually, obviously. However, they need to be activated and alert. So once this is all going, there's often a switch to the brain, the intuitive mind. And by concentrating on this one at the back of the head and lifting it, there's a sense of lift from the back of the head, so that we focus on the breath, the breathing out. Try not to overthink this. Focus on the breath, breathing out, and we can lift this center, this head center, Bindu, as it's known in yoga. There's a lift there which draws the energy there, and this is very much in line with the third eye. The pineal gland, which is situated between the eyes at the level of the forehead. So these two are linked together to provide an intuitive sense of no mind, whilst being very deeply related to thought. So once you link these two, and everything's warmed up, the table's set, these two become very dominant, and they link the left and right brain together so that everything functions very naturally. So you can focus on the back of the head here. You'll see warriors with tied hair at the back of the head here, just below the crown. This is to stimulate this area. But all we need to do really is just feel that lift. And as soon as you feel that, there's a lifting of the spine, because everything, and the thoracic region, because everything is tight, grounded around this central axis point, which is the base of the spine. Like with the rope I showed you earlier, it's locked there. Everything can move. You can travel up, and from here, this Bindu spot, it's possible to move, to lift and move very intuitively, so we can practice the footwork by concentrating on this. Now by doing so, everything works naturally, so you're not having to overthink mechanically in a routine way exactly what should be done. It happens in a mechanical way, but it's not thought about logically. So it happens logically, but in a very illogical way. So it's an outside, it's an inside-out approach rather than an outside feeding in. This is the distinction between inner martial arts and purely mechanical, muscular martial arts. So this method of inner martial arts works with the nervous system primarily and the energy channels, which then express outwardly, rather than hoping to develop outwardly and have that transform anything on the inner level. We're always working from the inner level, ideally, because then that feeds the outer level. Even the appearance and the posture and the thinking and everything else, this develops from that inner level, orientates the body and thought and feelings in a very intelligent way. So even in yoga they think of the body, the physical body, as the food body. It's because everything you bring in creates it. It's not considered who in this system who you are as an individual. In a developed sense, the individual is considered an energy body, which is fed up to the higher centres of the brain. What you see as the physical body is considered just a result of the food intake. It's related to the other bodies, the mental, the energy body, and everything else, but it's not the full expression of the individual. It's just the outside shell, the physical representation. There's also an energy and a mental one. So we can move around feeling this energy and experiencing that there and through the spine. The spine, when we feel that energy, if we just concentrate on it rising and just energizing the system, it's uninterrupted by anything else, and that's where you can feel the pure sense of self. And that's why this spine region and the linking centers are concentrated upon, because you can feel that pure energy self. So the exercises are designed to tap into those energy centers, so that the trainees experience through them be it here, 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 Bindu, the third eye, Agna, as it's known, the third eye. This gives you a very intuitive sense of things. Here, the heart center, solar plexus, or here, the abdomen, the Hara center, whichever we're feeling these energies through, that's what we're experiencing. Now, if you're just experiencing it on a technical level, then that's what your experience will be limited to. However, at the level of the energies, there's a deeper experience of reality there, of experience. So what we're aiming to do, to summarise, is to just feel the training occurring and experiencing that right now at that level of the energy, rather than any sense of historical achievement or ideal performance. That's just a memory of what's happened and a projection of that memory into the future. What we want is the reality here and now, which is the energy, the core, the source of that. So we're always looking to work from the source. In that sense, a good exercise is to feel the energy here at Bindu, a lifting. And then there's a fluid sense of flow, an intuitive sense of action and activity and an intensity as well. So when we work at this level, this really gets to the core of inner martial arts.